Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much and a warm welcome to Toynbee Hall. For those of you that I've not had the privilege of meeting, my name is Matt Dronfield. I'm the Managing Director of Advice Services here at Toynbee Hall. We've got a really packed agenda, so packed. I know we've got 108 slides to get through in the next 47 minutes, so we'll get kicking. Today, for the first time, we are bringing across all of our advice services together, from City Advice and our Generalist Advice teams, Debt-Free Advice Partnership, our Macmillian Welfare Benefits team, as well as our free legal advice clinic team as well. And we're delighted to have everyone. Not only that though, we're bringing together our external stakeholders from our Learning Circle events that also shape our research and policy work. It's a really busy day and we are delighted to have everyone. Our advice services cover 5 really key and important areas. Not in any particular order, but the first one is our money and debt that we'll be discussing today, our welfare benefits, housing, employment and immigration. And between those services, they support over 25,000 individuals each and every year. Today, we'll be looking at in detail about what we've been seeing as trends through those services and how we'll be supporting clients into the future as well. And that's really important because if we look back just over the last 6 months, the world's been really worrying. Many of us might have switched off the news just because of what the headlines have been saying, but we've seen constant notifications about inflation rates rising. In fact, just this morning on LBC, listening to them predicting to interest rates going up to above 6.2% next year before they start to come down. Everyone has felt the pressure of their energy bills going up and up, with people last winter choosing between eating and heating so often. People have seen a near 20% increase in their grocery shopping bills, not being able to buy the essentials for their children's packed lunch and turn into our services for those support. The result of COVID meant many diagnoses at hospitals couldn't be done because clinics were not open. So post-pandemic, our services have seen an influx of people with recent terminal diagnosis and the support they needed to help navigate that. And any savings people might have had as a result of the pandemic have had to be raided and are now empty. So really concerning external factors that have shaped all of the work that we do. As I mentioned, today we want to do 3 key things with us today. First of all, we want to share some of the service trends that we have been seeing across those services that I've just highlighted. Then we're going to be bringing together an expert panel of people to discuss what we're seeing both at our services, the partnerships that help us support those people, and of course the outside world as well. And then finally, we're going to share what's next. How are we going to look to the future to make sure we can use innovation to support even more people in a holistic way. But first up, we're going to look at our service trends, and I'm delighted to invite to stage Moena, who's our Data Insights Coordinator. Moena, all yours.
Hello, for anyone I haven't met yet, my name is Moena. I am the Data Insights Coordinator for Toynbee Hall, which basically means I do all your spreadsheets. So we're going to give you a little bit of an insight into what we're seeing, and I hope it'll be interesting. So in the first 6 months of this year, demand has been up for our services, so much so that in every single month, we're seeing more incoming handled calls than we've seen in the previous year. We also continue to see that the majority of our clients are in local authority or housing association housing, which is really a concerning trend, as we know that those are often people in already financially difficult situations facing more and more financial strain. We also see that the majority, as the cost of living crisis continues to bite, we're seeing more and more clients who are in need of support from food banks. In June, that was 28% of the clients that we saw, which is really, really worrying. We also continue to see that a sizable portion of our clients are on prepayment meters, meaning that they may have struggled to pay their bills in the past. That struggle is definitely continuing. We've got the lovely Beth to talk about the work that the research and policy team has done about prepayment meters, coming up to the stage now.
Thank you. Okay, so I work on the research and policy team here at Toynbee Hall, and we had a fantastic opportunity last year to work with Ofgem and Fair by Design to look ahead as we transition and we make the the net zero transition in the energy market, to look ahead and think to ourselves, okay, the energy market right now isn't fair. What can we do to make it fairer? How can we make it fair by design? So some of you may know the work of Toynbee Hall. When it comes to research and policy, we really think it's important that we're working with people who've got experience of a problem. We don't think that you can solve a problem. We don't think you can make good change happen unless you involve people who are affected by it. So that's really important to us. For this reason, we take an approach called participatory action research to a lot of our work in social change. With the Ofgem project, we were working with a group of community members who had direct lived experience of a lot of the unfairnesses in the energy market. We call it the poverty premium. So it's the extra cost that you pay for being poor, the extra costs for your energy because you're forced to be on a prepayment meter, for example. And we were working directly with them to say, okay, what are the problems now? And how might that translate to bigger problems in the future when we're thinking about net zero? So we recruited 13 peer researchers with lived experience of poverty. We explored with them the key issues. We're in dialogue with the Ofgem vulnerability team throughout this process. They chose the research priorities. They said what's important to them. They said what they think are the most important things to investigate. And then they conducted the research with the support of our research and policy team. The great thing about participatory action research is the research doesn't sit on a shelf. It's really important that it translates into action. It's not research for research's sake. So in terms of what was found, there was a lot of findings. I'd really encourage you to have a look at the full report. But what we can anticipate when we think about net zero and the transition to net zero is right now, green choices are just too costly. They're just too costly for most people to make. If we're thinking about making changes to the house, putting in a fancy new heating system, most consumers can't afford that. And the support that is available through the government just isn't enough. So we know that if people aren't going to get left behind from all the benefits of having more energy efficient housing and systems, there needs to be much more money released from the government to support them for an equitable transition. The peer researchers found from talking to 38 people with lived experience of the poverty premium that energy companies currently, and I think this will be familiar to a lot of you in the room, are really not very good at identifying and supporting vulnerable consumers. And what was really exciting about this project was that people themselves who experience poverty premium can say, actually, vulnerability changes. It's not fixed. It's dynamic. This month I'm fine, but next month I'm not. So how can energy companies get better at not just being a tick box exercise of this makes you vulnerable and this means you can have support, but actually talking to people in a different way to identify vulnerability? We also found that private and social tenants feel really powerless to make household adaptations, and there's a significant mistrust in smart technologies. That doesn't sound like that big a deal, but if you think that the government is really heavily investing in people being able to use smart fridges, smart heating systems, and a lot of people on very low incomes go, I do not trust smart meters, and I do not trust anything that's going to collect data on me, that's going to be a big problem that they need to get ahead of. So recommendations. So these recommendations were formed with the peer researchers on the project and with Ofgem as a team and with Fair by Design as well, helping us to really think, looking ahead, what needs to happen. So we really need to get that financial support for people to make green changes to the home. A really significant, and I think we can see this reflected a lot in what Ofgem has done since, recommendation was about key performance indicators. How do we hold energy companies more accountable for how they're supporting vulnerable consumers? How are we tracking it? How are people on low incomes having a say in what good looks like when it comes to support? A recommendation that was made was really about how do tenants collectively have more of a say over household adaptations. There's loads of concern, for example, about, will my service charges go up? I don't want to get a building adaptation if it means it's going to cost me more. So how do we get ahead of that? How do we make people feel more empowered over the decisions that are made that affect them? And then we really need to get to the bottom of this concern with smart technology. And we can only do that by working with consumers to understand what the issues are, why the mistrust is there. We already kind of know some of that, but what we can do to change it. So the final thing to say is that for Ofgem, so we've had a really good partnership with Ofgem, and I think we're learning that when you build relationships with people in power and you create spaces of dialogue, sometimes the work that you do together can be more effective. So Ofgem reflected to us that they felt taking part in this participatory action research increased their exposure and empathy with people who took part and that they were talking with, the peer researchers. It allowed them to create a dialogue. So it wasn't they were just listening, they were listening, reflecting back, hearing back again, and problem solving with people. It was a very ground up approach. So starting from the beginning, it's not just that you go as an afterthought and think about equalities, you build in thinking about inclusion right from the beginning. And then finally, they really felt that the consumers that they had talked to were feeling empowered by the process, that they had more of a say. They weren't just subject to the energy market. And I guess a lovely thing to kind of finish off with is some of you will be taking part in Knowledge Exchange Circle activities today, which is an initiative to try and break free from projects and to work together longer term with policymakers, community organisations and community members. And we have Ofgem, who's part of that Knowledge Exchange Circle, which is fantastic. And we've had great engagement from them in terms of coming on panels, continuing to work with us to work out how we implement these recommendations and getting lots of positive feedback that they're implementing them into their work plans for the year. So I'm not sure who I'm handing over to next. Back to Morwenna. But yeah, thank you for listening.
It will come as no surprise to all of you that the majority of the clients we see are facing some kind of emergency situation. These can include bailiff action, court action, eviction proceedings, and not being able to afford food. We provide a huge range of support across all of our services, but I particularly wanted to highlight our free legal advice service, which are most commonly providing advice at the moment on housing. And to end the doom and gloom, I'm going to introduce Matt, who's got some rather better news.
Thank you. Thanks, Mona, and thanks so much for Beth for sharing that great work we've been doing with Ofgem and our peer action research. So as we say, what we've been doing over the last kind of 18 months or so is starting to capture how financially better off customers are as a result of all of the services that we deliver. And Morwenna and Liam have been working really, really hard at calculating exactly what that is. Not only that, our advisors have been inputting all of that really important information into our CMS to be able to accurately tell that person. So we can reveal today, need a drum roll, that in the last financial year, all of our advice services together have better supported our clients by £22,679,322. So a big, heartfelt thank you to everyone that's been able to do that. It's an amazing achievement. It means for every £1 of funding our advice services get, customers are better off by £3.76. We've started that work already this year, and we already know just not quite, because we've not quite got all the numbers for June yet, but the first 6 weeks of the year, we're already £3,600,000 better off as well. So yes, it's about client outcomes, but it's also about how customers feel about the advice they receive. Do they feel that they're being treated fairly? Do they feel that they've got good advice? And do they feel confident that they're going to be in a better position following the support they receive from our advice services? And this might be my favourite 8 slides coming up of the presentation. Because as ever, we collect lots of reviews on Trustpilot, but not only Trustpilot, we get emails and cards and everything else that comes through. On Trustpilot, our advice services have now received more than 1,600 5-star reviews. And I want to share some of my favourites from the last quarter with you today. So the first one actually posted on the screen because my eyesight is not that good and I'm too vain to wear glasses. So the first one here is from Don, who says, I'm really happy to show my gratitude to the team at Citizens Advice in Southwark and my caseworker, Miss Anne, for her hard work, continued support and encouragement. Recently, I received a court letter from my landlord warning me that they were planning to take me to court for over £2,000 in rent debt. I'm a pensioner, and my pension was barely enough to sustain my basic needs, but they asked me to pay the debt in full, or else they would evict me and make me homeless. I went to the team and saw Anne, who not only managed to reduce my debt to under £20, but also helped me to apply for a pension benefit. And I'm now getting an extra £300 pension every single month. I do not have to pay my rent. When I went to the team, hopeless and broken, and now I'm debt-free with more income and full of joy. Again, I want to thank Anne for your hard work, dedication. It's comforting to know that I have you there. Thank you, Anne, and the team at Citizens Advice Southwark. Our next one, another Citizens Advice hero. This review is a continuation of my last one. It involved several meetings, phone conversations and emails. On this occasion, Patricia was dealing with my case. She continued with the great work she started by Samantha and was part of the next phase. I found Patricia equally reassuring, keeping me updated on each step of the process and making sure I understood what was happening. At this time, I'm not sure what the outcome is, but nothing is ever guaranteed. But I'm confident that the best chance of a positive outcome is with Patricia and Samantha helping me. Well done. That's the team at Citizens Advice Sutton. Now, our next one doesn't come from a customer, but comes from one of our funders who funds our City Advice service. And it's an email. And it says, "Hi, Helen and Vazana. I wanted to share with you some feedback I received from Chris, the assistant director, after he attended the residents' meeting last night. He said that both City Advice and the Tower Hamlets Carers provision was really popular and had received lots of positive response." Well done to our City Advice team. I've got another email here and it says, "I wanted to extend my thanks to the volunteers for your recent help. I was getting nowhere with my dilemma and finding the guidance particularly difficult. I was able to speak to someone at Toynbee Hall, and within days of my requests, I was listened to and followed up, especially helpful." So that's for our FLAC volunteers and our free legal advice clinic, and feedback there from one of their customers. Thank you to our FLAC team. Now, sometimes we don't get Trustpilot reviews and we don't get emails. Sometimes our clients send us e-cards. That's the thing. This is an e-card that we received from somebody else that received some free legal advice. It has its own music and everything. And it says, there we are. "Dear Adam and Paul, thanks very much for arranging my appointment with Adam, who was very helpful and patient and gave me an incredible 1.33, very particular, hours of support at his time. I felt a lot more positive about my situation and felt a lot more empowered to go back to my union." So that was someone seeking employment advice who'd be unfairly dismissed because of a disability. Again, congratulations and thank you to our FLAC volunteers and the FLAC team. We're going back to Trustpilot next. This one says, "Currently we were superb and provided me with the advice and assisted me to solve my problems. I will definitely recommend the team at Nucleus Legal Advice to my friends and family." 5 stars. Thank you. And here's my last one. This one comes from Andrew and it's for Ben, working at the Debt Free Advice Centre in Greenwich. "A gentleman called Ben who dealt with my case was really experienced and did his best to solve my issue. He was really helpful and knowledgeable. He took the time to understand my situation and explain all of my options. He also helped me to create a budget and develop a plan to pay off my debt. I'm now several months into my plan. I'm already seeing a difference. I no longer feel stressed and overwhelmed. I'm finally on track to get out of debt and couldn't have done it without debt-free advice." Well done, Ben and the team at Greenwich. Now, we actually reached out to Andrew, who left this 5-star review, to ask him a little bit more about his story. Now, we've changed the face and voice of Andrew to protect his identity, but this, in his own words, is Andrew's story.
Some time ago, I wasn't in a good place in my life. Had a lot of debts piling up and I didn't have enough money to pay them off. Then one day, I got a letter from my creditor. It said that if I didn't pay off my debts, the consequences would be serious. That's when it suddenly got scary. I panicked. I couldn't focus at work. I was worried that bailiffs would turn up at my door. I thought, I need help. That's when I got in touch with Debt Free Advice. The first thing that they did was look at my financial situation. That's my income and my spending. They quickly realised that I spend more than I earn. That's because I spend a lot of money on smoking and drinking, and yeah, I'm not proud of that. They put me on a breathing space scheme, a kind of payment holiday. It meant that my creditors would stop sending me threatening letters and I could look at maximising my income. They convinced me that if I cut down on my smoking and drinking, then I'll be able to pay off my debts. So that's what I did during the breathing space scheme. It wasn't easy, but I did it to pay off my debts and for my health. I'm now on a debt management plan, paying off my debts slowly. It's given me peace of mind. Going to Debt Free Advice was a lifesaver. And I was relieved to find out the staff were kind and helpful. Now there's light at the end of the tunnel, and I can't wait to get on with my life.
There we are. Just one brilliant case study there that a customer was happy to share his story. And a big thank you to Ben again at the team at Greenwich and all of our advice services for the work they've done, because that is just one story of more than 25,000 that we help each and every year. And we saw the financial gain to customers were over £22 million of financial gain as a result of that advice. So please, one more time, give a big round of applause for all those nice comments and all of the work our frontline advisors do each and every year. Up next, we've got a panel discussion. So I'm going to invite Jar, who is our head of policy and research, to introduce some panelists to dig a bit deeper into what we've just heard in terms of the external world and our service trends, and put that into perspective for their services and how they work with us. Jar, all yours.
Lovely. So we have a great overview in terms of the insight from the advice and the research and policy work. And in a way, a very good and kind of hard, very good story and understanding from a user as well. And today we have our panel here to share about what they have seen in their work and in terms of also their inspiration for the future. So we have a panel here. We have Ali Kershaw, Director of Growth and Economic Development at London Borough of Tower Hamlets. We also have James Thomas, Partnership and Integration Manager at Insurance, an organisation providing employment support for people. And we have Yasmin Begum, peer researcher at Toynbee Hall and a community organiser and campaigner in Tower Hamlets. So please join me in welcoming our panel. First, Ali, can I go to you first in terms of what you have seen in Tower Hamlets Council and also how you're supporting people from low income?
So I've been at Tower Hamlets for about 6 years now. We've seen things get gradually worse ever since the pandemic, in common with probably most of you in this room. All the time we were working through the pandemic. To explain, there are three teams that come under my remit. The two main ones that would be of interest to people here today are the Tackling Poverty team and the employment team. We've got a couple of people from the employment team here as well, who I'm sure will be happy to speak to you later about more specific things they're doing. Throughout the pandemic, we were quickly mobilised to support people who had ended up in more poverty as a result of the pandemic. And throughout that entire time, I think the team spent about a year thinking, we just need to get past this and our lives are going to go a bit back to normal. Work's going to be a little bit less difficult and we'll have time to think about what we do next. And we came straight out of a pandemic into a cost of living crisis where actually we saw more hardship rather than less. So over the last couple of years, we've had to really think about what we're providing as services, because we've always previously had key groups that we could say, these particular people are worse off for this reason. These people are worse off. We can help them to claim this benefit. We can help them to get into employment. We can do multiples of things to help these key groups. And what we're seeing now is that the poverty is a lot more widespread, that it's hitting pretty much all demographics now. But the money is not going up from anywhere. And again, you all have all seen that as well. So we've got a number of projects and programs that we run, but some of those are government funded. For some of those, the actual funding was set a couple of years ago and hasn't changed. So, for example, one of the programs we run is the holiday activity and food clubs, which we do through all of the school holidays, and which are aimed at supporting children who are eligible for free school meals to do an activity and get a lunch all through the summer, and through the Easter and Christmas holidays as well. Now, it's a great scheme. It was quite well funded to begin with, but our funding allocation was made 3 years ago. So as Matt said earlier, food prices have gone up about 20%. As we all know, gas and electric went up significantly last year, but the amount of money that we've been given for those programs didn't increase. So we've really had to work with providers, with people like the Felix Project, who've been amazing with providing food, to look at new ways of delivering those schemes without actually reducing them. So I think that the key thing for us is looking at how can we support people to improve their incomes. Some of that is through benefits maximisation. We have a small team that work directly with residents. Obviously, the council as a whole funds quite a lot of welfare services. The new community grant scheme is currently being scored, ready for new grants to be given to various organisations. But the other thing that we do, we use a lot of the data that we have in the council to reach out to people who we know are eligible for things they're not claiming. So for really simple things like pension credit, one of our biggest successes there was someone who now gets £12,000 a year more than they were getting before they were claiming pension credit. But even as an average, it's been about £80 a week that people have claimed, which on a monthly basis is making a huge difference to people's lives. We do a lot of work with people like Toynbee Hall to do research and make really good use of the peer reviewers. I think we were probably the first people to use your peer reviewers on a specific project. So yeah, I think that's really us.
Thank you so much, Ellie. Can I go to you, James? You are in an organization provide a lot of kind of holistic support in terms of employment and health, etc. Can you tell us a bit more about in terms of holistic support? What is key for providing holistic support?
Yes, really good to be here again today. In terms of the program that we've been running, so it's 2 years in the making now that we've been running on the Restart program. And what is really different about Restart compared to any sort of the government programs that have been run previously is that there is this umbrella under which we have well-being support. We have the financial support. We are looking, because obviously we realize that when people are looking for work and the barriers that they face to getting into work are not just the fact that they don't want to work. Essentially, there are lots of things that are happening in their lives changes. And the finance aspect of it is absolutely a massive one. So under our umbrella, we try to provide everything essentially. And from an integration point of view, we are bringing in services and partnerships that will essentially remove all of the barriers. So we do diagnostics assessments with all of our participants, and currently now, contract to date, we have seen over 65,000 people come on to our program. Of that 65,000 people, we have had a job start ratio of it's somewhere in the region now of 27,000 people getting back into work, of which 52% of that are in sustained employment. But this is only achievable because we've been able to move them from wherever we find them. They refer to us from the DWP. They come to us with the different barriers. And what we've tried to do is to use all of the services available to remove those barriers and essentially move them from where they are closer to that job market, to that job ready status. So that not just about stuffing them into a job, but essentially once they're in a job, that they will be there sustained because all of the other things around them, which we refer to as this sort of holistic umbrella, are there in place to sustain them and support them. And of course, that includes this sort of 6 months in work support that we give them once they have found employment. So we're trying to bring everything to the table to address all of the needs that they have, to make sure that they are closer to the job market or that they get into work and are into sustained employment.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And it's so good that our advice service is working with you and having kind of the kiosks in your workplace as well, to providing support for people. So lovely. Thank you so much. Yasmin, can I come to you? You are very active in the community, from the peer research to the community organizing work that you are doing. Can you tell us, in terms of, from your observation and experience, what approach what works so far in terms of organizations supporting community and residents?
Thank you very much, Shah. I think there are so many. I mean, there are so many, and I have a long list. But I'll try and be succinct. So community engagement is one of them. So PAR is a perfect example. PAR is participatory action research. So that's when you get residents to work with policymakers or whatever organizations that are creating these policies, regulations, products, or whatever. It's working with the people who the product is for or the policy is for to make it relevant for them. So involving the community in shaping policies, helping develop relationships. But more importantly, it's about building trust. Trust is a big issue at the moment with everything, whether it's health or whether it's finance or anything. It's important to develop skills within the communities, and especially digital skills, where everything is moving to the digital world. But a lot of people are being left behind because they lack digital skills. So it's important to give them that digital skill, which actually there's a youth group that help at Toynbee Hall that help the elderly and people who want that digital support. And they're lovely young boys who share their skills and help these people to up their skills, up their digital skills, even if it's on the phone. Also, financial assistance, economic empowerment, health and social services. Actually, I want to touch on something that everyone has mentioned, is about holistic care. It's really important that we don't just take it as holistic care, but we really read into it. It's like if you get a bottle of water with holes in it and you cover 2 holes and you fill it up, it will still leak. So it's about filling all those holes and then putting the water in, and the water will retain. So when you help a resident, a client, a patient, a service user, it's about giving them that holistic approach so that you can retain the water in the bottle. So it's not just like covering a couple of holes. I don't know how I'm doing on time.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, I've just got a few more. Collaboration and partnership.
Are we okay for Yasmin to say a bit more? Yeah.
Yeah. So, collaboration and partnership. Successful organizations often collaborate with other community stakeholders, including local governments, businesses, non-profit organizations, and educational institutions. By working together, these organizations can leverage their collective resources, expertise, and networks to provide comprehensive support to residents. Collaboration enables a more holistic and sustainable approach to addressing resident needs.
Thank you, Yasmin. And it's so good to have the panel here. In a way, it's a showcase of kind of collectively we can make a slightly kind of better place to be. So thank you. I know that you probably have a lot of questions. I definitely have a lot of questions for every panelist, but we have only given 15 minutes. So I'm sure during the break, colleagues can kind of exchange idea and experience. Can I just end this panel with our aspirations? So what's your aspirations for the future? Ellie, would you like to start?
So I think really for us, one of the things is in some ways changing the relationship that we have with the voluntary sector. So it's always been very traditionally that the council has been a funder and that the voluntary sector have done various pieces of works in this kind of area. Our funding has gone down exactly the same as everybody else's, but there is a lot of funding out there that can be accessed in partnership. So one of the things that I would really like us to see do more of is working more in partnership with the voluntary sector, looking at specific areas like food poverty, where there is a lot of work going across the borough. There's food pantries, there's food hubs, there's food banks, there's all kinds of things, all working in silo. There are equally funders out there who, if we could come together and really look at what's going on across the borough and how do we think that we could provide the best support to people, that we could probably come up with some really good business cases. People can bring experience that the council just doesn't have, experience of working with frontline services, experience of working with people who really are struggling and will open up to you in a way that they don't to us. We can provide experience in things like bid writing and the data support, and we could put together some really good ideas that would enable us to bring money into the borough and to work together to improve things for our residents.
Thank you, Ali. That is exciting. James, can I come to you?
Yes. We know that 40% of the people that come to us on program have expressed concerns that they have financial issues. So we know that this is a major thing, and financial poverty affects in so many different ways. So we do have the housing advisors, which are assisting them with housing where those issues are the main concern. We've recently just started to work with a national data bank. And the concept behind that is that we were trying to reach over 500,000 people in providing data and gigabytes for them to be able to get online. So this is affecting their everyday life. This is affecting their job search and so on. So we've come into collaboration with National Data Bank. They have 4 of our main network providers who are giving away SIM cards and data cards so that these guys can get online to just be in communication, really, and also be able to do their job search to move them closer. We're working with Anne from Yourself Debt-Free Advice, and we're looking at how we can increase and improve our marketing of the kiosks. So we have 13 of your kiosks in our offices. And what we're trying to do is to really improve the awareness now, and also to add to our process going forward in terms of financial health checks. And that will mean that we will have more people going in, sitting down, using the kiosks, trying to really just make sure that they've consolidated where they're at in terms of their financial position. And so that doesn't become an issue or a problem going forward in terms of their job search. So we are really pushing to try and maximize the use. I mean, it's such a fantastic tool to have installed in each of our offices. And we certainly want to maximize that a lot more than we have done in the past, going forward, to try and make sure that each and every person that comes through the door and who express a desire to have some help and assistance financially can get that assistance in our offices.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, James. Last but not least, Yasmin, what's your hope?
I'll keep it very short. My hope is that people in power, those people who sit on those big tables that make all the differences, give opportunities to residents and people to sit with them on those very tables to help them make relevant and inclusive decisions. I once heard that if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. And I'm sure it's not literal, but it does have a point. So I request that organizations and institutions and government institutions consider taking a more relevant and impactful approach to tackling issues that affect our communities.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. Let's all look at the menu, or
No, try and be on.
Let's be on the table and look at the menu together. Lovely. It's so good to have you all, and thank you so much. There's a lot of great insights, and in a way, it's just a start of our kind of further collaboration. Can you join me in thank our colleagues? Thank you.
Thank you, Sian. Thank you to all of our panelists for sharing those great insights there. So we've got a few more bits to go, and what we wanted to end this morning's keynote on is just sharing what we got planned next across our advice services. And there's 3 key things that I want to share with you what we're planning in the weeks and months ahead as we work towards the end of this calendar year. The first one of those is around financial inclusion and money coaching. Now, we shared a highlight of this last time some of us met earlier in the year, and I want to share just a little bit more today. So we have been funded from a new funder for one of our corporates to support 900 people over the next 2 years with 7 hours of one-to-one money coaching, not just here in London, but across all 4 nations of the UK. Now, rather than me attempt to do that, we've had our money coaching team come up with a great little 90-second video to help encourage people to take up this free coaching. So here's that video.
Our team of money coaches is here to help you achieve financial success. With small, achievable steps, we'll guide you to stay on top of your payments, build up your credit score, and find affordable credit options. We'll give you practical tools to manage your income wisely. By planning ahead, you can avoid the stress and worry of falling into unaffordable debt. You will have the opportunity to select from a range of topics, allowing us to tailor the sessions according to your preferences. We'll offer 1-hour sessions on a one-to-one basis, starting this journey with you by looking at the money coming in and the money going out, and work with you over 7 weeks to share tips and suggestions on how to work with your budget. Part of this is to put aside a regular affordable amount, even if it's just as little as £2 to £3 a week, to build an emergency pot for unexpected expenses. This will give you peace of mind, knowing that you're prepared for anything life throws your way, and help you focus on achieving your goals. Whatever your financial goals may be, we're here to support you. Our aim is to help you map out a sustainable plan that works for you, so you can be confident in taking control of your finances and staying on track for a brighter future, all from the comfort of your home.
Really excited for that, because for a long time, for our debt advice services and partnership, we've been speaking about how we want to get ahead of people getting into problem debt and providing that education piece before people are struggling. So we're delighted that this pilot for 2 years, which, as I said, is funded from a new funder, will start to work on that. And if we can prove the case, we're hopeful to make the case for even more funding to help even more people in future. When we met, some of us met earlier in the year, we announced plans to do this, and we hadn't quite recruited the team. But the team are all here, so I'm not going to ask them to get on stage, but just stand up for us, wherever they are. There we are. Hiding at the back. Welcome, team. Delighted to have you there. Now, all of our money coaches are here apart from one, because they are actually delivering the first money coaching session upstairs via video chat, which is really, really exciting. So just kick that off and delighted to have that. And as they come in, a bit of an explanation. So after an initial kind of matching session to check that that customer really wants the session, they have 7 hours of a mixture of individual sessions and group sessions before a wrap-up one at the end of that. And over those ones, as that video suggested, the client gets to pick exactly what sessions they want from a range of different topics to pick from. They're the individual ones and the group sessions as well. So 900 customers over the next 2 years, all of which will also be receiving a 0 interest loan from a provider across the country. So that's great. So that's our first one, money coaching. The second thing I want to speak to you about is a benefits calculator. And we've heard today from our panelists about how maximizing income is a really important step in helping anybody on their advice journey, no matter what their situation. Today, we're really excited to announce a partnership with Policy and Practice, and on our Debt Advice Partnership website, we'll be launching in the next few days a new quick check calculator. Now, it's one of the fastest in the UK. In less than 90 seconds, a customer will be able to fill this in and immediately be able to see if they're going to be better off by claiming benefits. At the end of that calculator, it asks the customer if they would like us to call them back, and it integrates into both our CRM, Advice Pro, and our telephony service, Flex. So a customer starts this online, it creates a new customer record in Advice Pro, so the advisor doesn't have to repeat information that we've already been told. And then the customer can choose either an immediate callback or us to call them back at a time that suits them, which again will be automatically pushed through to our telephony platform to really fill that gap. In Advice Pro, once this happens, is it pops up as an alert to say that somebody new has started a benefits check. Let's reach out and contact and support them. What I'm also really excited about is it works the other way round as well. So if a customer comes into one of our services face-to-face to begin with, we can push all the details we've already got into the calculator, again, saving that advisor time on having to double entry stuff. We've got the policy and practice team with us today, and for our advisors in the room, our breakout session that's happening after this keynote is learning how to use this benefits calculator in the Ashby Hall. So delighted to welcome this new partnership. I think we're going to have lots of people really benefiting that over the coming weeks and months. So yeah, that's that one. Our third one is an update on our video advice kiosks. Now, some of you will be familiar with these. We've been rolling these video advice kiosks out for our debt advice for the last 18 months, and it kind of came after COVID. During COVID, we had to shut as a partnership all of our face-to-face services. We quickly rolled out video advice at home, and then when we came back and asked ourselves, how do we come back better from COVID, we looked at our outreach sites and asked ourselves, rather than just being able to resource that one afternoon a week or a couple of times a fortnight, what would it look like if we had a video advice kiosk that was there? So we've rolled out now. They either look individual kiosks like this if the room is already safe and secure, or in spaces like the Tower Hamlets Town Hall around the corner, or our Ingeus restart programs, that in soundproof pods as well. So depending on the space, we can adapt that. We've got over 40 of these. They're the green dots on that map. Across London already, and they're super simple to do. You literally walk in to one of those kiosks, hit the green start button, and within seconds, it's not always Hazira, but if you're really lucky, you get Hazira on the other end to talk you through that. So we want to take this further. So the first thing we're doing now is to help people that we know are digitally excluded. So these kiosks have worked great for customers that have been accessing, for example, the Restart scheme. They spoke to their employment coach about their financial situation, and they've said, actually, we've got a debt advisor here. Let's talk together. Start. Here's Matt. I'll leave you guys to it. That's worked great. But what happens if a customer engages us first and they live too far away from one of our face-to-face advice locations? And perhaps they're digitally excluded as well. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have a modern smartphone. They can't access the video advice at home. Well, today what we're announcing is our kiosk appointments that are rolling out as well. So we're adding a second button on that screen, which means a customer, and in this case, the customer is the leader of Kent County Council, to walk in, and all they do is they press, don't know why that's red, there we are, press that appointment button, hold up either their letter if they've been digitally excluded, or they can also scan that QR code from their phone as well, and they get through to their named advisor. Some of them are really handsome, not vain at all, also laugh, and they get through immediately. So that QR code is unique to the advisor. So it's that named advisor, that continuity, which means if there's repeat appointments, you can build that same rapport that we would do in a face-to-face advice setting. And for our advisors and customer care team and other users of Flex, it's really simple to use. In the top right-hand corner, there's a QR code button. If you click on that, there you are, it looks like that. Click on that, it comes up with the drop-down menu there. You can add a reference. The reference is what comes up in Flex when the customer is calling through. So it could be an Advice Pro case number. It could be the customer's name. So you're not taken off guard by when that video call comes through. And then the bottom screen there is a drop-down for you to be able to specifically say which advisor that QR code is going to come through. The two buttons underneath that drop-down is either to copy it to your clipboard or to download it as a picture that you can either attach to an email, insert into a Word document and send out. So super simple to use and set up. And we hope that this is going to help even more people that live that little bit too far away to get to one of our things, advice centres. We also started to ask ourselves, these have been great for debt, but across our organisation and partnerships, we offer so many more services than just debt. And we talked about lots of them today. Our welfare benefits team, our free legal advice support in housing, immigration, employment. So what would it look like if rather than just having one service on a kiosk, we stuck two on? Or even better, 3 or 4. So multi-service kiosks, having up to 4 services per kiosk. So a customer can come in, and maybe in this example here, they've come in because they've been referred in and they said, yeah, I've got debt advice. I want to speak to that. You get to that super handsome advisor again. And then you speak to him and he says, he asks you some questions. And actually the root cause of your debt is because you've recently been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Now, rather than just signpost someone away and say, we recommend you go and speak to Macmillan, or here's the number, why don't we just bring them in there and there? So holistic, we spoke a lot about that on our panel today, that holistic support. So we can have up to 50 people dialed into that video call. And we can also, if from our point of view, we can start the call and hang up and let that conversation continue if we've done the bit of advice that we need to do. So we're delighted and really excited by that multi-agency support for all of our advice services. We think we're really going to take a leapfrog approach to providing that holistic support. This will be rolling out to all of those 40 locations that we've got, and we can customize it location by location for which services at which kiosk at the end of this summer. And the team have already been working really hard on that for the last few weeks and months to get ready for that. So they're the three things that I wanted to share, what we're going to do in the coming weeks and months. But there is one more thing that I wanted to share with you today. And that thing is about how can we help people? And Ellie spoke about it on the panel. Those people that look to services but end up getting signposted from place to place because we're just so busy, right? All of our services are at capacity. And sometimes a service that's been running for a long time, because it's at capacity, has to turn off those referrals overnight. So what can we do about that? How can there be a one-door policy so anybody only has to tell their story once and all of the services around it come and connect and support that one person? So I'm going to share you a sneak peek of something we're going to be doing before the end of the calendar year. And that, in addition to our existing advice services, launching a new consumer brand called Advice London. And we're going to take that for all of our kiosks. And we're going to refer to our kiosks going forward as our Advice London hubs. So you can see how this will work. So hubs where people can get any advice that they want, multiple agencies at any time to offer that holistic wraparound support. And today, because it is a sneak peek, an invitation. We've got colleagues that already work with us in the room from our debt advice partnership, our linkage partnership, our welfare benefits team and our legal support. Invitation to everyone in the room to join us for the Advice London Network. Don't know what that bang was. The Advice London Network, to be able to plug in your existing advice services to connect in and work together to do that. For our volunteers that work on our legal support services too, we'll also later on be launching a website so those volunteers can see training and updates and the latest news about that services and working together, collect CPD points. Definitely gone wrong there. Collect CPD points. Yeah. And overall, the Advice London Network, one-door advice services across London, a shared infrastructure, so our video hubs, telephony systems, a triage team. We have a triage team that's open 7 days a week. We'd love to work with more people to make sure that that team can find the right appointment in the right time. And then collaborative policy work from the data that we're able to collect. So that's the Advice London plan that we've got, making sure people get the advice they want as soon as possible. Don't know what that noise is. And that's everything that we had planned for us today in sharing. I'm really excited about the potential of more collaborative working together can have on the potential benefits and going forward. We've covered a lot already this morning. We've looked at both external and internal factors on our trends that we've been seeing. We had some great client feedback. They're always my favourite part of these events, to share what clients have said about our services. A delightful and insightful panel discussion. And then we've shared what's next with our money coaching service, our benefits calculator, which people are literally about to receive training on in minutes. Plans for our video advice hubs and launching our Advice London consumer brand later on in the year. Thank you for everyone that's made this morning possible. There's so much work that goes in behind the scenes, too many to name, but thank you for everyone that's done that. After now, we've got a short break for you get teas, coffees, real fills, and then we're all going into different places. So Beth mentioned the Knowledge Circles events. There's 3 Knowledge Circle groups that Toynbee Hall is working with to help shape policy so it doesn't just sit on itself and becomes actual project. If you're in the Debt Knowledge Circle, you are going to room 1. If you're in the Employment one, you're going to room 2. Civic participation filming is staying here in the theatre for your circle. Advisors, the benefits calculator training with policy and practices in the Ashby Hall. That's the biggest room that doesn't have the wood panelling around, the one that's not got the teas and coffees. Our debt-free advice CEOs are here today. We have a CEO forum taking place in room 3. After that, we've got a lunch break, and please, if you can, please do stay for lunch. And afterwards, if you can as well, this afternoon, we've got our rainbow reflections at 2:00, amplifying proud voices as we continue the Pride Month celebrations. So if you can stay for that, we'll be back in the theatre at 2:00. And then finally, to wrap up the day, because we've packed everything today, we're welcoming the MAL, the Money Advisor Liaison Group for London and the South East, for their meeting as well. Thank you again so much for joining us. I appreciate it. It's a full day at your diary. There's that music again. Have a great day. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.